so we don't miss any of the important stuff. I am here with Mr. Larry Kiyohiro, Kamehameha, class of 75. How are you, man?
Good. Guilty is charged.
You looking good. Are you on Oahu?
Yes, I am. I live in Kaimaki.
Oh, right on, right on.
And I was just rummaging through, and the only Kamehameha thing I could find was this hat with the K on it. So
Okay.
just to let you know, I got something. I got something.
How many of our reunions have you been to?
Zero.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is probably my first and my last. So I
Okay,
guess
so
I'm,
you are committed to this one.
yes, yes.
Awesome. That is awesome. So Larry, what year you started? What grade did you start Kamehameha?
Ninth grade. And so
Okay.
I'm just a high school guy. And
Where did you
mhm.
do K through 8?
uh, I, I went to Pearl City Highlands for eighth grade, so public school. And prior to that, I was at St. Joseph's, a Catholic school in Waipahu. So I used to catch the bus to go there and go to a Catholic school. So Mike Maderas lived a couple streets down, and he went to Our Lady of Good Counsel. But I had older cousins going to St. Joseph, and the school was just being built.
Uh-huh.
Like when you're third grade, and then by next year the fourth grade building will be built. And then the fifth grade, it was like that. And so it was just deemed better that me and my brother would go to St. Joseph's. So mostly a
Okay.
Catholic schoolboy out of Pearl City. And
So you and your brother, any other siblings?
just us two
Okay.
in my,
Is he older or is he younger?
he's younger.
Okay. Where did he go to high school?
He went through a bunch of different schools, and finally he just ended up with a GED.
Okay.
But yeah, he wasn't, school wasn't his thing. And in fact, when we went to take the entrance examinations, for Kamehameha, he just bagged out. They just went to the forest or the bathroom. They didn't even take the test, you know. And my
Oh,
brother was very bright, but kind of on the lazy side, I guess. But he just didn't want to try, even so. Yeah, unfortunately. So I'm the only representative from my direct family
okay. So
that
no
went there.
legacy, dad,
No,
mom, uncles.
no, no. All my on my Hawaiian side, all the guys went to St. Louis. So
Mm,
they played football. They were sports guys, athletes. They all turned into cops usually or firemen. But on the 6'2" side, built for sports. Yeah,
yeah.
I got the Japanese blood. I'm half Japanese, so yeah, yeah. I have to go the other way. Use your brain. Use your brain.
So by the time we get to senior year, do you have any kind of life plan in place or still wide open choices?
No, at that time, in high school, I only had one objective, and that was to decide what I wanted to be, for a career. And so I actually wanted to be a dentist. And, as fate would have it, I went to UH and I was a chemistry major for a few years. And, I was doing fine, but it was very boring. And I even met the University of the Pacific Dental School dean. He used to golf with my stepdad. And he just told me, hey, Larry, just get B's and come to UOP. You're in. So I could have easily become a dentist had I followed that path. And then my wife's father is a dentist that was retiring, and I would have walked right into his practice, in Kaimaki, 2,000 patients, no equipment to buy, already got the place, lock, stock, and barrel. So yeah, I really missed that one. But I wanted to be different. And so I walked down to the music school at UH and I just told them, hey, I want to be a music major. So I just switched majors and started studying music, believe it or not.
Okay. Is there some background? Had you always been interested in music or
I just wanted something totally different from chemistry, and and so I sort of went against what I decided I wanted to become. a dentist. And yeah, ironically, my my stepdad, or yeah, I mean not my stepdad, my father-in-law is a dentist retiring. Yeah, and yeah, so I guess, but I've got a unusual background, and I guess I had an advantage at Kamehameha because I don't mention this too often, but now's a good time to confess. I went to kindergarten twice. So I did a kindergarten in Waimalu Elementary, and then my mom sent me to St. Joseph's. And when they met my mom, she's from Japan. She couldn't speak English. And they said, oh, no, this boy, start him at the beginning. So they started me at kindergarten, which was probably a good move at the time, because they couldn't communicate with my mom. So from a very young age, I'm writing the letters, please excuse Larry from school yesterday. And she would sign it, yeah, because she really couldn't speak or write English. So,
Wow.
she's really from, Hokkaido, Japan, a real Japanese lady. And just a little background, my dad was a local boy. He was fighting in the Korean War. He took R&R and went to Tokyo. And that's where he met my mother. So the war ends in Korea. He comes back to Hawaii and realizes he really loves her. He goes back to Tokyo. They get married. They have me. And so I'm born in Japan. And then we move very quickly back to Hawaii.
Okay, now how does that work for you? Is there any kind of dual citizenship thing going
Yeah,
on, or
I used to carry two passports, but I've lived in Japan for a total of 13 years in my career. And so I've worked there for two big stints. And I have a permanent foreign visa. I don't need to be sponsored. I'm considered a Japanese national, son of a Japanese national. And I was born in Japan, so it made it even easier. So I'm treated like a national, a Japanese national.
uh-huh.
And so that made it very easy for me to, seek employment when I was there.
So language, are you fluent Japanese?
Yeah, and I can read some too. So yeah, conversationally fluent. And yeah, I worked for a Japanese company in my last stint, and so everything's in Japanese basically. Yeah, so I run the global side of the business, and so everything is done in English, but internal meetings and stuff, and it's more or less Japanese.
Okay, now this was explained to me, and not being into languages, I didn't quite get it. But apparently in Japan, status and situation will change the vocabulary.
Yes, they have like what we would call honorific or a very polite language. You normally speak that to a customer or to someone senior in your, employ, or somebody that's just older in the neighborhood. You would address them slightly differently. And there are tones of politeness that are in the language. It's known as keigo. So,
So you
like
and
you
your
could,
buddy sharing a cold drink,
oh no, then
barbecuing.
that's just the boys, construction worker lingo, slang. Yeah, anything goes, just like our pidgin. Yes, guys. I've been in the countryside with construction workers. I can't understand anything, and I go, wow, I've been living here like 9 years now, and I still can't. But it's just slang. So,
Okay.
you work on your hand language, using your hands, your body language, your facial expressions, and you can still communicate quite a bit. And fortunately, Japanese people are very friendly, very nice, very polite, extremely helpful, and they really go out of their way to help you. If somebody can't speak English and I say, "Where is this?" They'll go, okay," and they'll walk me right to the steps, right to the door. Koko desu. I just bow very deeply. Domo arigato. Let them know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Now,
people are that nice. It's
did
so
you
safe.
did you did you formally study Japan, or you learned while
Um,
you earned?
Well, yeah, a little bit of both. My mom's Japanese, so I grew up, in that language, eating Japanese food. Yeah, she's my first. And then I studied for 3 months intense before I went to Japan, and that helped. Then I took an internship, and thereafter they offered me a job. So my first stint was, I guess, from '88 to '93 for 5 years. So I worked for a big Japanese securities firm. like a Prudential size, a Payne Weber size, in American terms. And we had 20 offices around the world, 7,000 workers, about 75 local branches domestically. So we're a big operation. And fortunately, I came in as a lawyer. So I was the highest ranked foreigner in the company, which means I sat at all of the meetings with our president.
Okay. Now, I don't want to miss any steps because I confuse easily, but let me back up. You're studying music at UH,
Yeah,
and you've mentioned being a lawyer. So take me from
you
music
had a good
to
one. Yeah, yeah, excellent question. You're listening, Kermit. Very good. Yeah, how does a music major become a lawyer? Go to get into law school. That's almost impossible. They're always looking. I always say this. They're looking for color. Every class has that one joker card. They throw it for color, personality. Non-lawyer is better, and I guess I fit the bill. I was the joker. So fortunately, I got into Gonzaga School of Law.
okay.
And after I went up there to Spokane, Washington, I was accepted at University of Hawaii. And so I had to make a decision, and Gonzaga started to work out really well. My second and third years, I was put on a full ride, so I was there on scholarship. So it worked
What
out very well.
what years were you at Gonzaga?
84 to 87. Kai Wahinui is with the undergrads there. And so I bumped into him a few times.
Okay. How about by chance George Iranon?
No, I never got to meet George.
Okay. Because I think he's been up there since college days
Wow.
or whatever level. So, and Spokane's nice. I've been
Yeah.
there 2 or 3 different times and, laid out pretty well. If you like that Pacific Northwest, I don't know what the weather's going to be today kind of program they're running over there. So, did you stumble into law or you kind of thought, hey,
Um,
that might be a cool thing to do?
yeah, I was relatively strong in school. So, and as a kid, I remember I used to stay up late at night with my mom and we'd watch like Perry Mason shows. So maybe I got the bug from that. And, at our age, it was a very highly respected profession to go into. Things have changed, obviously. Most people hate lawyers now. And I try not to look like a lawyer or act like one. So I've done pretty good at avoiding being a lawyer all
Yeah,
my life.
that'd be who else do I know? Obviously, Crystal was in law, and
Yeah.
then I found out
Um,
Daryl Yasutaki.
yeah, career lawyers. I mean, they're real lawyers. Yeah, let's get that straight. I think Georgia McMillan on Maui is a lawyer. We have quite a few in the class, actually. Lani Ma'a, she goes by Thalia. She's a University of Hawaii grad from the law
Wow.
school, and she
And
was
then
working with
Isaac
like
Smith.
Isaac. Yeah, he's a good bud. In fact, he helps me out. I like to challenge myself, and so sometimes I'll just take a case that's totally foreign. So I took a drunk driving thing for a friend of a friend, and Isaac had to coach me every step of the way through that. Yeah, and yeah. So it was interesting. It's fun. Keeps it fresh. Always exciting. And yeah. I like to challenge myself. That's how I end up in all these different kinds of positions. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
So,
how'd you make the Japan connection living in
well,
Hawaii, being a lawyer?
yeah, when I came back in '87, you take the bar. Fortunately, I passed. And one of my friends said, "Hey, Larry, the Japanese are buying everything in Hawaii. Go to Japan, learn the Japanese, learn the language, come back, and you can make business. You don't have to do all the work and be a grinder, by doing contracts and staying up, 2, 3 days in a row. Just go to the nice lunches and dinners, bring your Japanese clients in, and just have the other staff do the business, do the work. But you can rainmake. And so I kind of like that, not that I'm avoiding work, but it was a pretty good thing to do. So that's what took me there. I have a bigger interest, and that was always finance or working in investment. So when I went to Japan, I interned at a securities firm, not a law firm. And I am an American attorney, but I'm not there in a legal capacity. So I worked in the corporate finance section, and we raised money for foreign governments and foreign large companies, you know. And so it was very exciting work. I think I've worked everywhere. For example, I can give you some names like Gabon, Oman. These are countries. Nauru, you might know them in the South Pacific with the dodo fertilizer, the phosphates. And so in Hawaii, we have the Nauru Tower. That was part of the dodo bird money, as I say. And so they were one of our clients as well. And I've worked all over with many of the Chinese organizations as they were building the infrastructure. At that time, China was probably building one new city for 1 million people every week, a new city in their country. It was booming.
Wow.
And so all of the counties, the regions were raising money, and they got to go outside of their country to raise funds. So Tokyo was a normal, natural place. The Philippines, the president, I've met them. The prime ministers from Australia, they're all with their hands out asking us for money. And so it was a very interesting time. I had good clients with Cyprus, Turkey, and Algeria. And what I learned from my boss early on, he said, Larry, we're not Nomura Securities or Goldman Sachs. We can't do France. We can't do big, countries, modern. We got to go where they ain't going to go, where they're going to send their second or third stringer. We go down to Algeria, they don't even show. It's just us, And so, I just tell them, we're this size, come to Tokyo, you will meet my president. We will honor you. And so we used to raise funds regularly for the Central Bank of Algeria, as part of the deal. So it was very fascinating, all the different types of work and projects that I got to do. Towards the end, at the 5th year, we were raising $1 billion bond issue. At the time, that was the biggest size in one offering that you could do. And we were able to put that together in a matter of a week to raise that kind of money for our clients. Yeah. So
Now,
very exciting work.
do you raise your funds like any small organization would? Like you have an event and
No. This is institutional money. So we just talk to our insurance companies that are affiliated with us. We handle their retirement. We invest all of the monies, their premiums. And so when they want to borrow, we can get them. Algerian bonds are kind of risky. So they're getting a country sovereign with a pretty decent yield on their money. And in Japan at the time, interest rates were still like 2-3%, and I'm offering 7 or 8%. And, if you put 5% of your money in 7 or 8% earnings, that's not bad. It's not that big of a risk. We could lose it, but it's not that bad. And fortunately, nothing defaulted. And then I used to run with, I had the Americas. It sounds impressive. That's just Canada and Mexico, basically. And so I used to do money market CDs with Mexican banks because we could get 10 or 12% in the early mid 90s on money market funds, which is really high, astronomically high, but they were hard up and nobody wanted to loan them money, And so we talked to their banks, and the banks were the borrowers of our funds. And so I used to run the money.
Very international then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you do a lot of traveling?
Somewhat. I could kind of pick and choose. So I always I like Canada. My other love is Australia. And so Shell Australia was my big client down there, and they were building the North Shelf. And Australia's large; it's a continent, but they're not money-wise. They didn't have the money in their country, so they have to go abroad to raise funds. So they were more than happy to work with us. They got a good deal, we got a good deal, and I kept getting to go to Australia, so that was kind of nice. It's a beautiful place.
I was there between my 5th and 6th grade years for a summer.
Wow.
We flew into Perth.
Oh, wow.
Just bought a cheap little Volkswagen Bug, drove around the south.
Yeah.
Up
there you
to
go. There you
Where's the
go.
Opera House? Is that Sydney?
In
On that
Sydney,
Sydney
yeah.
side?
You're going up
Yeah,
the coast. Yeah,
yeah.
they tell me, I've heard people tell me, I've unfortunately never been to Perth, but they tell me it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, for a city. So I don't know if you could confirm that, but that's what some people have told me. They
My
really,
my memories are very selective at that time based on my age. So I remember lots of sheep. I remember lots of pasture.
yeah, and
I
that's how you get
remember
to see Australia. You got to go, just drive and go see the country, go see everything. Yeah, yeah, it's a big place, a lot of fun. But yeah, all of my time was in Melbourne or Sydney. And
okay.
sometimes I went to Canberra for the governments when they were raising money themselves with us. So we had quite a big book of business from the Australians.
So
Yeah.
your family, I heard you mention a wife,
Mhm.
kid. You have kids?
I, I have two kids, a boy and a girl. And fortunately, they both went to Kamehameha.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, my son started in fifth grade. He was waitlisted in fourth grade. So I had to bump one guy off, and then my son took the spot. Shh. I think it's past the statute of limitations. I'm a lawyer too. Remember, I'm a lawyer. And then my daughter got in regular, which is fourth grade. And unfortunately, my daughter had to leave in her senior year. And it's all for the better. It was her choice. She signed a modeling contract to go to Japan. She
Oh,
was
okay.
17 at the time. So she finished that international school. It's done in English in Japan. And I had to be there with her. She's 17, 18. And yeah, no, 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 no. Daddy's going with you. And so we had a small house we rented, and then we got to live together near her school, and then she could go to work and stuff. And yeah, the country's so safe. If she came home at 2 in the morning, I didn't care. She's gonna be fine. There's just no violence, no stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. Drop your wallet. Somebody will pick it up, or they'll leave it there, or take it to the nearest little police box, and it'll be there. People are
That's
yeah,
unimaginable.
unthinkable. Yeah, unimaginable. I lived there 13 years. I saw one fight, like real fighting, two foreigners in Roppongi. I've never seen Japanese. No, no. Why? Don't go there. And I just love the country, love the people. And, obviously, I really like the place if I lived there that long. So my daughter, from her senior year, decides to accept the modeling contract. And she was in some of the big magazines like JJ. All the models, the new models coming up, the up and coming are featured there. Signed a big contract with a large entertainment company. And so, when we first got there, there were banners on the trains where we lived that had her on them. She was on national TV for Panasonic as a model.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. There's big billboards. She's in. There's a Yomi Uri Land. It's kind of like a Japanese version of Disneyland. She's the Yomi Uri girl, and so there's big posters of her there. At that place. So she was quite a sensation. First year as a senior at the school, and she's this new model in town. And yeah, it was a celebrity status when she traveled. People would ask for her autograph because they're going to the modeling show. It's the Tokyo Girls Collection. They have the Osaka Girls Collection. And so she's going around, the nation on these things. Yeah, she's one of the hotties, and everybody.
Now, Dad, how do you keep her grounded, Dad?
Oh, she's very ambitious. She's gutsy, and she's very bright. So currently, when she left the modeling thing, she started her college at UH at KCC, came back and graduated from UH as an accountant, became a CPA, and then worked for Deloitte, one of the big firms. And shortly thereafter, if I bring you to current times, she's working at Google. She's in their finance department. So she's been there now
Okay.
5 years in Sunnyvale area, San Francisco, wherever Silicon Valley is. And she's, yeah, doing okay.
Good.
Yeah. So She has a side business. She is an influencer as well. And
Oh,
so
like those. Okay, I think
yeah,
I.
yeah, she is one legitimately, and she does good. Um, it's better than her salary at Google. That's all I can say. So
Holy moly!
yeah, and she's represented brands, you would know, like Shiseido, um, L'Oreal, Estee Lauder. She's been pushing their product. She does skincare, so it's all for the face. The face mask from Korea. She has a couple of sponsors there. And so she just does some Instagram, TikTok posts, and she gets paid for doing those things. So her name's Alessa Miki, Alessa, and then Miki, if you want to follow her. She has over 2 million aggregate followers. So that's why she's
It's
been able to monetize it. And I saw her start this whole thing during COVID with nothing to do. So just take your old iPhone and start making a video.
oh
And
yeah. I mean, I
it
see lots of them that have grabbed my attention just because they're doing something cool.
yeah, yeah. And so all of the modeling, how you posture your face, gesture, you're practicing in front of a mirror. That's perfect for what she does now. So she self-produces everything and relatively good, strong quality for an amateur. And yeah, a lot of big companies in skincare want her, to represent them. So yeah, she's doing really well with that as well. And yeah, and at Kamehameha, she was on the cross country team for sports, and then she did canoe paddling, and then she did yachting. Believe it or not, Kermit, they have a yacht team, sailing club or sailing, and you challenge other schools. You can win get a ILH prize thing.
And
But
it's
yeah,
it's it's a speed contest
no, no,
or
no, it's just a two-man little prop thing. They wouldn't let them out of the Alawai.
oh,
The Alawai boat harbor, not in the canal, but just in the boat harbor. Yeah, they're not ready for the open seas. you know, like I saw her crash into the pier many a time into the dock. Yeah, I was like, okay, you made it safe. Okay,
all right.
but
Now who's older, your son or your daughter?
my son is elder. He's older, and he's doing quite well. He also a UH grad, and he was working in, and he works for a defense contractor, so he's civil service in IT. So he does infrastructure, like the hardware, software, and then hooking them up and handling the software updates, which is regular. And this is for the Department of Defense. So it's pretty, very very high cybersecurity. You know, protocols are required. Yeah, so he's stumbled into that, fortunately, and he's doing quite well. Um,
Well, I don't know if it's the past, but I remember hearing stories about Department of Defense, and then you have the
mhm,
contracts where
mhm.
$600 hammers and that kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know. So I imagine it could be a good line of work to be in.
yeah. And one of the things I discovered a few years ago is the 8A for small businesses. If you wanted to sell or work for the government, the federal government, you can, of course, if you have a business like construction and stuff, but you can get a Native Hawaiian organization established in the state of Hawaii and then um, get certified under the 8A classification for small business with the federal government. And there are probably about, I would say, 15 to 20 NHOs that are operated. Some are exclusively not doing any business in Hawaii. But part of it is the government gives them the money on the contract. So they could be a subcontractor or the general contractor with subcontractors to do a construction project, build a new runway, on Kwajalein, expand the military barracks in Guam, for example. Many of these projects are multi-million dollar type projects. Okay. And
Now, being on the outside of this,
mhm.
educate me. What is NHO?
Native Hawaiian organization, it's
Okay.
considered a disadvantage like the African American. And so the federal government goes out of its way to try to give you business. There is usually the talk that these businesses are getting awarded so much. So I'll give you one example. The Kina Ole Foundation, Ray Jardine, excellent, retired colonel. He does explosives. He takes them away from the firing ranges. You know, the missiles that didn't explode and any ordnance. His job is to retrieve it and take it away. Very, very serious work. He has a book
Can
of
imagine.
contracts. He has a book of contracts right now of over $400 million in his pipeline.
Wow.
$400 million, yeah. And he doesn't have any work in Hawaii in this state. So the military's everywhere. They got to clean up everywhere, right? That they practice. So yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of deals. There's one called the Native Hawaiian Foundation, and they got the contract for South Korea, and they were doing so good on the airport that they said, "Can you handle all of our bases there?" So that contract just exploded into something that's like a $500 million, $500 million of business. Yeah. And now they're getting into
Wow.
fuel. So they're going to do the refueling tanks on all the bases that are in South Korea as well. He also has like a small contract, $40 million to clean up part of Red Hill. That was part of his local business. Yeah. And I do mean small by 40 million. Yeah. So what happens with all of the profit that comes into these NHOs, they're required to give some of that back to the Hawaiian community. So there's another one, an NHO called Huli Huliao on the west side. They're making their headquarters there. They're putting up a training center already built, and they're donating as much as they can into the west side with some of their profits. They're doing what it was intended to do. Yeah. So it's a real
And
cool thing.
and I
And they're
imagine
using
they're monitored to make sure they.
yeah, full compliance. I mean, you need accounting software designed specifically to handle these federal contracts. Yeah, you got to be. There's a lot of red tape involved. There's a lot more going into the paperwork than there is the actual work, so to speak. But then money is paid on the barrelhead. So yeah, when you get a federal check coming in, you know that's huge, and it cashes, you got paid. Yeah. So with all
Wow.
of the IT contracts in the state of Hawaii with the DoD, I would estimate, maybe 5,000, 6,000 civil servants on contract to the DoD, and the companies like Leidos, they hire for specific projects. Yeah, so they have the contract with the feds, but an NHO could actually assist Leidos and take part of that big contract as well, and the proceeds of some of the profits from that can actually go back into the Native Hawaiian community. Can make a huge impact if you have a construction or an IT type company. Yeah.
And would you say then that generally speaking, less, not more of the existing little small companies are even aware of the programs?
Yeah, nobody. I just found out, and I was over 60 years old by the time I found out. I learned about maybe 3, 4 years ago about what was going on. And
And
then I
these
started.
programs have been in place a couple
Oh, for
decades,
years.
or
It started with Daniel Inouye. And what Daniel Inouye did was he wanted the NHOs to give back to the Hawaiian communities. And since they couldn't legislate the money back, we're not even an indigenous people recognized by the United States, like the Alaskan or the Native American. We don't even have similar status to them legally. And so this was the roundabout way to get the Hawaiians some money, for doing good work. And so I remember Ray Jardine said, he had a contract that was turned down for this ordnance thing. He's the guy that, picks up the busted shells and stuff. And he made one call to Dan. Dan called the Pentagon. And the next day, the guy that rejected him said, "Come in, we need to talk. We can work it out." And that's how he got his first big contract. The rest is history after that. Because once you get into the system, it's easier to give you more work in that area. Yeah.
wow.
Another advantage is that there's many companies that are too big to take the contract, like a Boeing. It's impossible for them to get the contract because it may say that this is a minority awarded contract. So if you're a Native Hawaiian organization, you hook up with them. Now they're qualified.
Hmm.
And remember, excuse me, I talk too much. The federal government buys everything, all services, all goods. They're the biggest buyer in the world of goods.
Wow, wow.
So, so I know we got a new, authoritarian type rule. I know they're going after DEI, but nothing has been touched in the 8A yet, this area. And more Hawaiians need to get. I believe we've probably got on paper maybe 70 NHOs, out of them active, maybe 15 that are very profitable. But we should have 5,000 of these NHOs, pitching for business. Yeah. There's medical supplies to Tripler Hospital that if you had the contract, they'd rather work with somebody who can locally source. You know, there are no local NHOs doing business with Tripler Hospital right now. So, there's all kinds of things just locally that can be taken advantage of, but that doesn't have to be the case. You could supply shampoo to a prison, a federal prison, in a region in Colorado area. And if you're the NHO, because they have to give you a preference. And the federal government has a mandate. 15% of all federal funded contracts need to go to small businesses. So they're looking, to find you. If you're too big a company, you're not eligible unless you hook up with an NHO. You see it? So you actually don't even need the expertise in an area if you hook up with a company that can do the contract. Yeah. So you're taking care of the paperwork as a general contractor, and you're licensed to do so, 8A qualified NHO, and the money comes to you and you pay the subcontractor. And it could be the subcontractor, could be somebody like Cardinal Health, a very big organization, but they can't even bid on the contract yet because it's allocated towards small business. So there are many opportunities that are there. And, it could be small little things. Like I saw one landscaping for the Kamuela on the Big Island, the Kamuela post office. This wasn't the parking lot. This is just the landscape to put that in. The contract was worth about $600,000. This ain't no big post office in Waimea. You can kind of imagine, you got to put the grass in, you got to put the trees, right? You got to have some background on what you're doing, got to have a look to it. But 600,000 for the contract?
Wow. Well, I hope enough people are
So
listening and word gets spread out
Kermit,
to.
I hope so. Kermit, I hope that $600 hammer that you mentioned that the government. I saw that 60 Minutes too. I was really angry at that. But it was called a multi-impulse device. So it doesn't sound like a hammer. Multi-impulse device, just like a hammer, but $800, $600. Yeah. Yeah, but this is real legit work. If you've got a construction arm or construction, could be logistics, transportation is big, just moving stuff, and then it could be, just supplying very specialized things, to the government. Yeah.
Well, maybe you got some consulting options open for you, Larry.
I'd be happy to put anybody on the tracks if they want to really figure out how to do this. I have an NHO. I have a foundation with it. And so I have the legal apparatus in place, and I can turn it on when I want to. But yeah, I just saw too much promise in this area, for us. And the good thing about this, you get into this kind of business, it offsets any of the local income. And if our economy is going down, everybody's losing, not making that much money. Federal contracts keep coming, baby. They keep coming. That'll keep you in the game and I get you bigger. Yeah. And so,
I know on a small scale, seems like it would expand into the same thing. A federal contract exists because somebody budgeted in and got approved.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to spend that money, or next year,
or lose it. Basically, that's right, and that's the fallacy of our budgeting system. If you didn't use it, you don't get it second time around. There's got to be some cushioning. And I believe in giving all departments leeway, a little bit of leeway. And that's how you're going to see how they really want to use the money. And we got to train these people instead of the mindset, that if we don't spend it. And I would admit there's a lot of politicking. There's a lot of, BS going on because it's big money. And, sometimes the wrong people come out at the wrong times, or at the right time, shall we say. But doing it for what it can be, what it can do. Just beautiful. This is a vehicle that needs to be pushed. It can raise more money, and bring it into the islands. So I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Now, before I lose the question in my head, Larry, are you a grandfather?
I just had one. My granddaughter is 3. In fact, she'll be visiting after this call. It's her mom's birthday, so we have cake and stuff, and she's coming over to the house.
Right
And
on, right
another one
on.
is on the way. I have my son will have a maybe a boy in like October, end of the yearish. Yeah, so getting very excited there. On my daughter's side, she's just bought an engagement ring. They got her, so she's set to get married sometime next year. We'll have something for her in Hawaii.
Okay.
And yeah, her fiance used to be an all-star volleyball player at Hawaii, and they were classmates, so they've known each other since New Age days.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm
Well,
very pleased.
let me offer you a word of warning as a
Yeah.
grandfather of nine. Your first grandchild being a girl, chances are real strong if you're not careful, she'll end up extremely spoiled. So,
She already is.
oh,
I go up to their house. It's like half the house is her stuff. I'm looking at her like, what? Oh, jeez. But yeah, and I like spoiling her too. She's a lot of fun.
yeah.
Thanks for the
When my
advice.
first three were toddler age, I guess you would say,
Mhm.
the girl who was the first one, she was number third in line, but first girl. She used to talk me. They used to go call me go to grandpa
Go
because
to
after they
grandpa.
run through the house and get all the no's, they would come to me and get the yes.
Ah,
She would drag me to 7-Eleven, get Slurpees,
uh,
every high sugar content
yeah,
snack that
yeah,
was in the
yeah.
place. And then before we went home, she'd say, Grandpa, you need to wipe my mouth because mom's gonna know I had
Nah, but
Slurpees.
it's there you go. There
I'm
you
going,
go.
what am I, an
Cover up the
accomplice?
crime.
An accomplice
Cover
to
up
a
the
crime?
crime. You were coerced. We're gonna go with coercion. Yeah, she just twisted, those little puppy dog eyes that get you every time, man.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, but I love her.
So
Yeah.
how long have you been back in Hawaii then?
I came back in, I think, 2017. And
Okay.
so when I went up the second time with my daughter was 2009 to like 2017. I worked in another career just to make it interesting, Kermit. So then I was working in consulting, and it's a very challenging, interesting area. So if you know companies like McKinsey, Bain, the Boston Consulting Group, they're the highest paying that when you come out of college or MBA school, and they work you into the ground. And so I found a Japanese company that was about 30 strong, and yeah, I fit in. So I got to handle most, basically, the global stuff of the company. So any of the instruction that was going in English was my kuleana. And what was interesting was I got to travel throughout all of Southeast Asia because my assignments would take me to Thailand. We had two offices in Vietnam. I've worked with China, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and then I've worked in the Middle East as well, and a little bit in America, and then some stuff in Brazil, Latin America. So it's been really, really fun, to travel throughout these countries, and I stay in nice hotels, and I'm not paying for it, so it's really good, you know. And,
Question, you mentioned Thailand, and
mhm,
I've seen and heard things throughout my life as a recreational place to visit. Would yay
uh-huh.
or nay to Thailand?
Thailand's fun. I would go. If you want it less crowded and cheaper, go to the Philippines. Because if you want the beaches, the outdoors, and they got the party nightlife stuff just same basically. I would say, but Thailand is kind of special. It's just a very cultural place, very spiritual, Sadikap, and there's a very nice vibe. I love Thai people very much. Love the food, and massages are only what was it, $8 an hour. So I used to get two girls on me. That's $16. I'll give them a tip, you know, for an hour of total massage. They stretch you, they really move you around. And so I'd get at least one massage a day, usually two. You got to break
Wow.
it up, and I got stuff I got to do in between. I got to work sometimes, but yeah.
Man,
And
that's amazing. I mean, it
yeah,
seems like you could just really.
I can tell you a couple of funny stories. I worked for one of my biggest clients was Kao, Kao, and that means face in Japanese. And Kao is a soap company. It is Procter and Gamble, as you would know it. Detergent and diapers, and their detergent is Attack, very popular, like Tide, and their diapers are Mary's diapers. And in China, their diapers, the Marys, are gourmet items. So if you have a very good friend that's expecting a child when it's born, you send them a carton of Mary's diapers, imported Japanese diapers for your baby. And it's considered a very nice gift. And they own the gourmet market, but it's only like 2-3% of all of China diaper market. So Kao came up with the idea, well, we're going to send our old equipment to China. We're going to make the same Mary's diapers like we do in Japan, just make them in China on the older equipment, and we just sell it locally. And so they put the team together, and I'm the coordinator of the team. So I work with them, and they brought them from maybe 6 or 7 different countries. And we all speak common, at least English. We're all bilingual in something else. And so as they're working, sales were horrible. And they were just using competing against the basic, simple diapers. And it says made in China, but they know the Mary's brand is exclusive and is from Japan. And so they couldn't sell any diapers. And I'm going to ask you, what do you think why this thing was a failure?
I would say the translation of the name, maybe.
That could be, and they were known for gourmet diapers, so they were like the Haagen-Dazs of diapers. If you knew Mary's, you knew it was the best diaper quality you could get from Japan. Okay, so in China, they set up the Mary's. They call it Mary's. That was a mistake, and they start selling it at the Chinese basic price. Like a Pampers, and they just couldn't get any sales. And then they found out after we did some analysis and observations, we found out the Chinese thought that was fake product. They didn't trust it because it's got a Japanese name, but it says it's made in China and it's priced like a Chinese diaper. So the Chinese thought it has to be fake, contraband, it's lower quality. So nobody would buy it.
Okay.
And so I had to work with the team to work around that and figure out different ways that we could remarket the diaper. It was more of a marketing issue than it was a production quality issue, a distribution issue. There are some things in their Chinese distribution system you have to understand. You had to push diaper product as well. But that was just one of the things where we, and the whole cost was about $50 million US to set this little venture up, and put a team of 6-7 guys in charge of it. So that started struggling, but it started moving up very nicely. The next thing they did was I got stuck in Indonesia working with feminine products.
Okay.
Tampons, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, real expert here. And so when I saw the team, I was just flabbergasted. So, Kao, we have a meeting in Tokyo. They fly everybody up, and this is our feminine napkin team. And I'm looking at them. It's like 7 guys. And I go, this is wrong already. Wrong already. 7 guys. Hey, I told them, get 2 people. I want an Indonesian woman, and I want some other woman on this team right now. And I said, oh, but Larry, we don't have managers. I said, just call them managers for the team. Get 2 women here. When we take that photo, we need to have women in the picture. This is heaven. Hey, Kermit, I had to learn this the hard way. There's at that time, like 2010, there were over 30, like almost 40 different types of feminine napkin products. Over 40 types.
I'll trust you on that.
Yeah. I didn't know. So and in Indonesia, we found out something very interesting with our analysis, and we harped on it, and it worked really well. Muslims, predominantly 85% of the country is Muslim. They don't throw their blood away. So you can't have a disposable. That doesn't work there. that doesn't work there. So what we did was we got the patent and developed a washable napkin. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Immediately in the first 2 years, it took over the market. We had 2/3 of market share in the country. It was a big hit. So the next thing is that we were moving it to the Muslim, you know, to the Middle East because that's where the Muslims are. Yeah. So what works there was going to work over there. So the next deployment would be to move the team into the Middle East and develop the
Boy,
product.
it's so many cultural.
Oh yeah, all over the place. It's very fascinating. I mean, in consulting, you kind of need the brain power because you got to think of solutions, make a big problem, a little problem, and start
Yeah.
tackling away.
Larry, is that a keyboard in front of you?
Yes, for my granddaughter, I'm teaching her piano now, so I have something
Oh,
here.
okay.
And then, yeah, I'm going back to piano. So, doing the big loop of life, I'm coming back. And I promised one of my music major friends that I would get back into it. He got me inspired. So I got to take it up, in his class. He just passed on last year, and dear friend of
Oh,
mine, musician friend. And if you heard him sing, you would say that's James Taylor. He's that good. He sounds just like James Taylor. But yeah, so it's my commitment to get back into playing music again. Yeah.
have you at one point, any point in your life, performed publicly?
Well, I was like classical piano at UH, so I've done like what you'd call like small recitals. But then I've played for like Teddy and Nancy Tanaka. I backed them up on keyboard. Loyal Garner, if you know them, I backed up their keyboard player. So yeah, I'm kind of like almost at the professional level, for a show. But it's
Yeah.
set music, and I can read the music and then figure out where I need the accent and kind of where not to get in other people's way. You don't have to
How
play all.
early in your life did you start with the piano?
Oh, she's probably that's a good question. Maybe about 7 or 8 years old. My
Wow.
mom took
Okay.
me to this old man to learn how to play piano. And the only reason was she wanted a piano in our house. That's the only reason because it was kind of look cool, you know. So if now that we got it, okay, make the kid take lessons. That's kind of
Were
how it
you
worked.
actively playing through high school?
Not really, not really. I wasn't into. I was listening rock and roll. And yeah, no, I would have to say no. But I did take Cheryl Akaka's class because she was the piano teacher, the former Miss Hawaii. Her husband is Peter Caraggio. He's from Juilliard, and he was my first teacher at University of Hawaii. So I've worked with the couple, which is kind of cute. I got the husband and the wife teaching me, you know.
All right, on.
Yeah.
It's
So
a kind of a neat celebrity circle there.
yeah, but I've never tried to make money off playing piano. Yeah. Yeah, that's not gonna pay the bills. Yeah.
Oh boy. You got any recreational trips planned in the near future?
This year so far, I'll probably end up going back to Tokyo. I've got some things people I need to visit and stuff. And I have a client there. I'm practicing law now, believe it or not. And so I have a real international clientele, and a few local cases. But, I'm not pressed for work. So I take what I want and I get to live my life. I can play with my granddaughter and I have more control of my time where I don't have to be anywhere. It's
Yeah,
all on my clock now. So fortunately, I've done enough in life where I'm at a point, where I can really just kick back. And good thing I get a pension from Japan, and I'm also got Social Security on this side. So there's two things coming in regularly that help. You know, so yeah, I'm not pushed cash flow wise or anything.
that's awesome. Makes things much more comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, it gives you options,
Yeah.
gives you a lot more options. And there's rainy days. We're all not gonna, life doesn't turn out how you expect it to. That's par for the course, right? So just how you react to it and what resources you can bring, what's quickly available, and what you have to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Are
and you know,
you are you
yeah,
planning to attend any reunion events then?
yes, I'll go to the Mai Tai. Sounds interesting. I can make that. And then Natsu Noya.
Uh-huh.
And my mom used to work there long ago, and a couple houses across, I used to live there. I remember that when I was a young kid. Uh,
Wow.
so yeah, I go back a long ways with that place. But
I didn't
yeah,
realize the place was around that long, but I guess so.
yeah, it was, and yeah. So just moving on with my mom. After I got into high school in ninth grade, she opened up her first bar restaurant on Keomoku Street. She had about four of them. Eventually, sell one, open the second one, the third, and the fourth. And so I actually took the fifth one, and I was managing it with my wife. And so that was the first year we ran the place. And 1 year, and then I said, I'm going to law school. This is too hard. It's a lot of work. You're like a slave to the restaurant.
I can imagine. Is your wife a local girl?
Yeah, from Kaimaki. She's Japanese, pure. But she doesn't speak Japanese. But she looks Japanese. So when we go to Japan, I do the talking to the clerk, and they only look at her. They won't look at me, and they only look at her. You know what? I'm a chopped liver because bilingual. Come on, almost want to swear at her, but they only look at her. My wife's pretty. I guess that's the excuse. They want to look at her, not me. I understand it, but it's like I'm talking to you, dog. Come on.
Yeah. And that assumption, well, she's the one with the Japanese look, so she obviously should be speaking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's good. She could communicate with her hands really good. She was an excellent shopper. She figured out how to access the banks. You'll get the money, how to go shopping. And yeah, it's a fun place. You shop every day for what you're gonna buy from the store. Yeah, everything's smaller, the house, the ice box. So you don't go to Costco and fill it up, for a whole 3 weeks. No, 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 no. You shop every day or every other day. So you're always at the super red buying stuff for the next day or two, and
Oh,
it's light to carry, it's cheaper, and they even have single portions, for single people. So they cut it down really cheap. Food is really good, even in the 7-Elevens. I like their food there. The sandwiches are excellent. I don't eat the 7-Eleven food here locally. The no comparison. Yeah, if you've been to
oh.
Japan, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and
I guess it's what you have had access to or what you've experienced. Because I mean, I love to be able to walk in a 7-Eleven, grab a musubi, grab a chili bowl and rice, and
yep,
but I also have seen some YouTube videos where, like your daughter, these influencer people will just travel around and show you
yep,
what the
yeah.
inside of a
Yeah.
Japanese 7-Eleven looks like. And I mean, you could eat there, seems like for 6 months and have something different
Oh
every day.
yeah, yeah, easily. The thing is, all convenience stores have bathrooms there. So you can walk in, they'll greet you, shy say, go in, do your business in the bathroom, walk out, don't buy anything. And they'll say, thank you, yeah. Please come again. And you leave the door. It's like all I did was go in and but that's fine. That's fine. Because they know you'll come back. They know you'll be, you like the place. Obviously, you've been there, you'll be there again. So they got you as a customer, and they're everywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's food is cheaper there than it is here now. Like a plate lunch in Honolulu is probably about $15 ish now. It ain't $8 anymore, but things are still $10 or less there. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So your money goes a longer way, and yeah, when I was working in consulting, people ask me, why didn't you do law then or go back into investments, and stuff. And I was too old to go into investments. I thought law is boring, international law, and consulting paid the best. So, and it was a great fit for me. And so I got it to the point where I probably only worked 5 days a month. And I'm still pulling down over six figures.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, just to give you an idea of how valuable our time is. And my clientele is huge. Hitachi was a client, Fujitsu. I mean, these are big names. Audi, the car company from Germany, Merck, the pharmaceutical firm, Bristol Myers Squibb. I had Yahoo Japan and Apple. So, I was always pretty busy. If I wanted work, I could always find work, or take more engagements. So I just spread them out over time. I got control of my calendar. And when you're not busy, you should be designing more programs or, working on assignments or meeting more clients so you can pick up more business. Yeah. And so you gotta kind of fill your pipeline up, but at the same time, you can do it at your pace too. So yeah, I really, really liked working there, but home is home, and I miss the surf. I just miss the sunsets. And, for the most part, my wife was living here. And so I had to live by myself. My daughter, me and her lived there for about 4 or 5 years. And then the last couple of years, she moved back early. So I'm there, and I told my firm I would stay here until the day I retire. And so I held my word and I worked till the day I retired. I kept my word. They're real big on that kind of stuff over there. Yeah, if you screw up in Japan, Kermit, they just give you the sword. You know what to do in the room over there. I joke about it, but yeah, I mean, it's just that intense. Yeah. It really gets. I mean, their whole being cannot fail. And they're gonna do everything. I think it's over concentration. I think it actually screws them up, from highest performance, like at the Olympics, that kind of stuff. I think that they just overstress themselves. You got to be loose, to some extent to really be at your optimal best. To me, you got to feel in the zone. And to me, that means being relaxed, not overly tense. I can't screw up. And,
Well,
um,
to me, it's like anything with moving parts, like an engine or something. It needs bushings, it needs cushion, because
yep,
if you lock in and too rigid, something will
yep.
break.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Very good analogy to it. Oh, and by the way, you knew I was doing driver's ed, right?
No.
When you were doing driver's ed, yeah. Wes Bachita, he's from Pearl City,
Uh-huh.
and Wes is very successful. Um, but his daughter came to you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Driving, yeah. And I grew up with Wes, but he went to you, you know, who didn't live in Pearl City, but yeah. I'm just playing with you on that. But
So
yeah,
what period of time were you doing it?
oh sheesh, I want to say close to the year 2000, right around
Okay.
around that time.
So
So I did
close to the
about,
beginning of the mandatory part then.
that's correct. And I saw an advantage there when it changed. And Fred Nagao was one of the teachers at Farrington. So I took the course through him. And then after that, I was driving with Rodney at Roosevelt. And I had heard Terry Malter was a driver's person over there. I don't know if it was in Roosevelt, but
I
she was
think I
doing.
heard
I never
bits
met
and
her on the
pieces in
road though.
yeah, I didn't either. Who were you driving with? You had your own
Yeah, I
uh
had my own private students.
what
So
were you calling it?
mostly like Kaiser High School. I had most of them. Castle High School in Kaneohe had a lot of students from there. And then some Kamehameha kids and Roosevelt kids, more Kaimaki based around here.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah. So I
What was
did
the
it more
name of your
part time.
school?
808 Drive. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I heard the name. I just never knew any of the principals. So,
yeah, and I was a little avant-garde, shall we say, where it's supposed to be 20 hours of classroom instruction, 6 hours driving. I flipped that. I rather have the kids driving 20 hours. So it took my time, but we the book stuff is not important when you're driving. It's got to be automatic, even at emergency mode. You got to know exactly what you should be doing. Yeah, and that just comes through time, practicing, getting better, giving them tips, telling them what to look for, call it out if you see it, and so you can be trusted. Yeah, because otherwise, unfortunately, none of my kids really banged up too bad. you know and so I'm really pleased about that. Yeah, because I took that responsibility very seriously. Yeah,
oh, I did too. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, you're talking life or
you've got
death.
to. Yeah, yep, yep, yep. And so, yeah, and then a couple of years when I was here, 2017, I didn't know what to do. So I drove Lyft for about a year just to Lyft Uber, just to learn the business and then figure out what it was. And that was very insightful. It's just to get a beat on the market, who uses it, who are my customers, tourists and then locals, and just see where they're going. And usually to bars or restaurants in the early evening. I'd cut it off at 10. I used to drive at night because it's cooler, but after 10, you start getting the drunks. No, no, I'm not going to mess with that. So, yeah, so it worked out. I had a nice experience, overall. But just
When I travel, I appreciate that service, though.
hmm
I
hmm
mean, you can rent
it,
a car, but the car sits for 2/3 of the
yep,
day.
yep,
So,
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
because I
I
guess since the pandemic too in Hawaii, that what is it called? Turo, where
hmm
people rent their personal cars.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's gained some popularity, or
yeah,
at least
yeah.
at
It
one
has.
time.
It has, yeah, especially when the car rental agencies sent the cars back to the West Coast because there was no business during COVID. Then they realized, well, we got nothing here. So you heard the story on Maui. U-Haul truck went for as a rental for a tourist just to drive and see the island, $600 a day, one day on a U-Haul truck, you know, or a rent a car or rent a truck, or rent a van, whatever it was. But it got that bad. It got that bad. So yeah. Yeah,
Oh
so
boy.
it's good to keep your eyes open. We all got to have side hustles here with the high cost of living, and if you could see where things are changing, better, more power to you if you can position yourself right. And if you could set it up with something like an NHO and bring some money back to the Hawaiian community, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can get this thing and give it momentum so it starts moving on its own. Yeah. And we got people like Brian Schatz, Mazie Hirono. They will push. They will push. These are senators. They will push. So, one call from them, can probably get you the business. In other words, if you're in good graces and full compliance, got a real legit, accounting team. Yeah, there's no reason why you can't get business. Yeah. Very few consulting firms on the islands. I would say I know of one, and then the Small Business Association, the SBA, that can give you any type of guidance in this area. It's very, very limited, and that's a shame. We should have seminars going on every month. You know, so one of the things I think about that I should be doing as well. And just to round me off, I'm also a adjunct professor at a couple of universities, Bond University in Australia, and my school, Graduate School of Business in Tokyo. So I've been a professor there for about 10 years. So they keep me on retainer, and I just started a new class in Australia today. So it's all just videos, and then I just respond to emails, 2 live sessions. They get to meet me, and in 6 weeks the class is finished. So I teach global law, the law for global managers. So as the manager, in an international company, multinational, these are the issues you're likely to face, and then how are you going to react to them? What laws apply? How do you take this, protocol within the company, within your division, or if you got to go outside, yeah, because it's serious.
Well, I probably will be contacted and hear back. They'll probably want to talk to you some more. So I'll just give
Oh
them
yeah,
your
yeah.
email, maybe. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine too. Just tell me who you are, what you need, and let's see if I can help you out. Yeah, I'm more than willing to push this wheel. You know.
Man, your career hat rack must just be huge. You wore
I,
them all, and
I got a lot of hats. I got a lot of hats. Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good, good. Well, I'm
But yeah,
excited. We're less than a couple weeks away from reunion.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and for not having gone, there's going to be lots of faces you haven't seen in a while. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just putting them together at who is who, it's going to be really cool. I think, and just to see how everybody has blossomed.
yeah.
And
And that's part of the reason I started
yeah,
this project, thinking,
this is great, Kermit. This is
people
excellent.
catching up with people they
Yeah.
probably may not even get a chance to see at reunion.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, to go this deep into a person and how others can relate And that's one thing with the Hawaiians that I always wanted to see improve. It's like, I used to work downtown, at the banks at First Hawaiian and Bank of Hawaii. It's like, where's all the Hawaiians? They're all over the place, but we don't follow. Oh yeah, he's cousin. Okay, I know him. Or that's somebody's son. Okay, I know him. But we don't have a consensus meeting, or a group thing amongst professional business guys locally, even.
Yeah.
And we need to strengthen the network so we could pull and help other people up, yeah, and get them into the positions, so they can just make it on the island. There's a lot of things, a lot of opportunities available if we get them in the right place.
And educated at the same time.
Yep, yep, yep. I mean, we
Well,
got to get
Larry,
on the canoe and paddle together. We'll get there.
man, I appreciate your time you gave me today, man.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much, man. And shout out to everybody out there. Looking forward to seeing you.
Right
You know,
on.
yeah. All right, Kermit.
Class night, if not earlier.
Right on, brother.
Aloha.
Aloha.